The red warning light flashed across the bridge of the human ship Aurora's Edge. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the center of the command deck, watching the urgent message from the Galactic Council appear on his main screen. His crew fell silent as the alien voice spoke in perfect translation. Emergency Directive 447 Alpha is now in effect. All exploration beyond the Outer Rim territories must stop immediately. Reports confirm hostile entities called the Devourers are active in those sectors. All member species must return to safe zones and await further instructions. No ship may proceed without official authorization from the Galactic Council. Dr. Lisa Grant, the ship's science officer, looked up from her station. Her face was pale as she studied the data streaming across her screens. Captain, I'm reading something strange in this transmission. There are distress signals embedded in the background noise. Morrison walked over to her station. He had learned to trust Lisa's instincts over the past 3 years. She had a gift for finding patterns that others missed. What kind of distress signals? Colony world signals. Crathan frequency. It's coming from the Thessian system. Lisa's fingers moved quickly across her controls. Sir, that's a major colony world. 2 million Crathan civilians live there. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Torres turned from his navigation station. Captain, the Thessian system is exactly where the Council wants us to avoid. It's deep in the restricted zone. Morrison felt his jaw tighten. The Galactic Federation had rules for everything. They had committees to form committees. Every decision required approval from 12 different species, each with their own cultural needs and voting procedures. It was a system that had kept peace for 300 years, but it was also slow. Very slow. Commander Helen Brooks, their diplomatic officer, stepped forward. Jake, we have to follow Federation protocol. If we violate the directive, it could cause serious problems for humanity's standing in the Federation. Morrison looked around his bridge. His crew was young by human standards, but they were good people. They had signed up to explore the galaxy and help others. Now they were being told to sit in a safe corner while people died. How long would it take to get Council authorization for a rescue mission? Morrison asked. Helen checked her diplomatic database. Standard procedure requires a formal request, review by the military committee, approval from the safety board, and final authorization from the full Council. With current political tensions, I'd estimate 6 to 8 standard days. 6 to 8 days. Morrison repeated the word slowly. Lisa, how long do those distress signals suggest the Crathan have? Lisa's face grew darker. Based on the signal degradation and the emergency codes they're using, I'd say hours, maybe less. The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of ship systems. Morrison looked at each of his officers. These people had followed him through dangerous missions before. They trusted him to make the right choices. Morrison had grown up on Earth during the early days of human contact with the Federation. He remembered the excitement when aliens first arrived. Humanity had dreamed of joining a galactic community, of learning from species that had traveled the stars for thousands of years. But Morrison had also learned something about his own species during those early years. Humans were different from the other Federation races. When the Zephyrian diplomatic ship had crash-landed on Mars, human rescue crews had launched immediately. They didn't wait for permission from Earth government. They didn't form committees to study the situation. They just went. The Zephyrians had been amazed. In their culture, such a rescue would require approval from their High Council, their Safety Ministry, and their Cultural Protection Board. By the time they got authorization, the crashed crew would have been dead for weeks. That was 37 years ago. Since then, humanity had learned to follow Federation rules. They had become good Federation citizens. But Morrison wondered if they had lost something important in the process. Ryan, how long to reach the Thessian system at maximum speed? 4 hours, sir. Morrison looked at the Federation directive still glowing on his screen. The words were clear. No ship may proceed without official authorization. He thought about the 2 million Crathan civilians who were probably looking at their sky right now, hoping for rescue ships that might never come. Helen, send a message to Federation Command. Tell them we received their directive and we understand the situation. Sir, don't tell them we're complying. Just tell them we understand. Morrison turned to his navigation officer. Ryan, set course for the Thessian system. Maximum speed. Ryan's hands hesitated over his controls. Sir, that's a direct violation of the Council directive. Yes, it is. Morrison sat down in his captain's chair. Lisa, prepare a full sensor sweep the moment we drop out of faster-than-light travel. I want to know what we're dealing with. Ryan, have engineering prepare for possible combat situations. Helen, start drafting messages to any Federation forces in the area. If we find a way to help those people, I want other ships to know about it. Helen looked worried. Jake, this could end your career. It could damage human relations with the entire Federation. Morrison thought about that for a moment. Helen, do you know why I joined the space service? To explore the galaxy. To help people. Morrison looked at the star field on his main screen. When I was a kid, my family was caught in a flood. The river had risen faster than anyone expected. Official rescue services were still organizing when a group of neighbors showed up with boats. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't check with the authorities, they just came and got us out. Morrison stood up and walked to the front of his bridge. The Federation is a good system. It keeps peace between very different species. But sometimes when people are dying, the system isn't fast enough. Sometimes you have to act first and deal with the consequences later. He turned back to his crew. I'm not ordering anyone to follow me. This is my decision. If anyone wants to object, they can do it now. The bridge stayed quiet for a long moment. Then Ryan's hands moved to his navigation controls. Course set for Thessian system, Captain. Ready for faster-than-light jump. Lisa looked up from her science station. All sensors ready, sir. Helen sighed and opened her communications panel. I'll start working on those messages to Federation forces. Morrison smiled. This was why he was proud to be human. When the situation was desperate, when people needed help, humans didn't ask permission. They just acted. Execute jump. The stars shifted, and the Aurora's edge leaped toward a system where 2 million people waited for rescue that might never come through official channels. But they were about to learn something about humans that the Federation was only beginning to understand. When human lives or any lives were at stake, humans acted first. Permission was never needed. The Aurora's edge dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Thessian system. Immediately, every alarm on the ship began screaming, "Report!" Morrison called out as his crew worked frantically at their stations. Lisa's face was pale as she read her sensors. Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the system. There are things out there, huge metallic objects surrounding the colony world. On the main screen, Morrison saw something that made his blood run cold. Thessian Prime, the beautiful blue-green world that housed 2 million Krathan civilians, was surrounded by enormous mechanical creatures. They looked like metal spiders the size of city blocks, with long arms that reached down to the planet's surface. The Devourers, Ryan whispered. Morrison had heard stories about these ancient machines, but seeing them was different. They moved with horrible purpose, their mechanical arms tearing into the planet's crust. Even from this distance, he could see explosions on the surface as Krathan defense forces tried desperately to fight back. Sir, I'm picking up Krathan military communications, Helen reported. Their defense fleet is in full retreat. They've lost 60% of their ships. Chief Engineer Bobby Walsh's voice came through the communication system from the engine room. Captain, those things are big. Our weapons aren't designed to fight something that size. Morrison studied the tactical display. The Devourers were each roughly 3 kilometers long. His ship was only 400 meters. It would be like a mosquito attacking an elephant. Lisa, scan those machines. Look for any weaknesses. Marine Sergeant Amy Carter appeared on the bridge. She had been in the ship's gym when the alarm started. Sir, what's our situation? We're outnumbered, outgunned, and probably about to do something very stupid, Morrison replied. Amy, get your Marines ready. I don't know what we'll need, but be prepared for anything. Navigator Pete Collins, the youngest officer on the bridge, looked nervous. Captain, shouldn't we wait for Federation reinforcements? Surely they'll send help once they know what's happening here. Morrison checked his chronometer. Pete, we sent our situation report 4 hours ago. Even if the Federation approved immediate action, which they won't, the nearest Federation fleet is 12 hours away. Look at that planet. Do you think those people have 12 hours? Through the main screen, they could see fires burning across the Krathen world. The Devourers were systematically harvesting everything. Buildings, vehicles, even the atmosphere itself. Got something? Lisa called out excitedly. These machines have a weakness. During their harvesting cycles, they lower their defensive shields and redirect all power to their extraction arms. For about 30 seconds every few minutes, they're completely vulnerable to electromagnetic pulse attacks. Morrison felt hope stir in his chest. Can we generate an EMP strong enough to damage them? Yes, but Lisa hesitated. We'd have to fly directly into the middle of them and overload our main power core. The pulse would disable the Devourers, but it would also destroy our ship. The bridge fell silent. Morrison looked at his crew. These people had families back on Earth. They had lives and dreams beyond this moment. He had no right to ask them to die. There's another option. Bobby's voice came from engineering. We could rig the pulse to not quite destroy our ship. We'd be dead in space afterward, but we might survive. What are the odds? Morrison asked. Maybe 20%. Morrison walked to the front of his bridge and looked at the burning planet. 2 million Krathen families were down there. Children, parents, grandparents. They were dying while he stood here calculating odds. Helen, send a message to any Federation ships in range. Include everything Lisa learned about the Devourer weakness. Make sure other ships know how to fight these things. Yes, sir. Morrison turned back to his crew. I'm going to give everyone one more chance to object to what I'm about to do. Pete raised his hand tentatively. Sir, I have to ask. Why are we doing this? These aren't even humans down there. They're aliens. Our own Federation told us to stay away. Morrison considered the question. It was a fair one. Pete, do you remember why humans joined the Federation in the first place? To explore the galaxy and make contact with other species. No. We joined because we believed that intelligent life, wherever it exists, has value. Those Krathen down there think and feel and love their families just like we do. The Federation is supposed to protect all its member species, but right now, politics is getting in the way of doing what's right. Morrison looked around his bridge. I grew up hearing stories about humans in Earth's old wars. There were times when soldiers had to choose between following orders and saving lives. The good ones always chose lives. Amy stepped forward. Captain, my Marines and I volunteer to stay aboard for the attack run. If we're going down fighting. One by one, each crew member made the same choice. Bobby would stay in engineering to manage the power overload. Lisa would coordinate the sensor targeting. Ryan would pilot them through the Devourer formation. Helen would maintain communications until the last moment. All right then, Morrison said. Ryan, take us in. Bobby, start preparing the EMP overload. Lisa, I need precise timing on those shield cycles. The Aurora's edge turned toward the planet and accelerated. As they approached the Devourer formation, Morrison could see the true scale of the machines. They were impossibly huge, their metal surfaces scarred by eons of warfare. Entering the formation now, Ryan reported. The Devourers don't seem to consider us a threat. Shields dropping on the nearest target in 10 seconds, Lisa announced. Morrison gripped his chair. Bobby, are you ready? Ready, Captain. It's been an honor serving with you. The honor was mine. Lisa, give me the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2. Shields down. Now, execute! The Aurora's edge unleashed every bit of power from its reactor in a single devastating electromagnetic pulse. The energy wave expanded outward like a miniature star, washing over 3 Devourer machines. The ancient machines convulsed as their systems overloaded. Their massive arms stopped moving. Their harvesting beams shut down. One by one, they began falling toward the planet like dying giants. The Aurora's edge drifted powerless in space, but its crew was alive. Against all odds, they had survived. Sir, Helen called out weakly, I'm receiving transmissions from the planet. The Krathen Defense Forces are rallying. Our attack disabled 3 Devourers and showed them the machines can be beaten. Morrison smiled despite their desperate situation. Helen, send a message to the Krathen. Tell them exactly what we learned about the Devourer weakness. Make sure they can share it with other worlds. Already done, sir. Morrison looked at his crew. They were exhausted and scared, but they were alive. More importantly, 40,000 Krathen civilians had escaped from the planet during their attack. They had violated Federation orders, risked their lives, and probably ended their careers. But they had proven something important. When people were dying, someone had to act. Someone had to care more about saving lives than following rules. The Federation might punish them for this, but Morrison knew they had done the right thing. And somewhere in the galaxy, other human crews were probably making the same choice right now. 3 weeks after the Thessian incident, Admiral Frank Stone sat in his office at Human Command watching reports flood in from across Federation space. His communication screen showed a dozen different messages, all with the same basic content. Human ships were ignoring Federation orders and launching unauthorized rescue missions. Admiral Stone was a big man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 40 years in space, first as an explorer and later as a military commander. He had seen humanity grow from a single-world species to an important member of the galactic community. But he had never seen anything like what was happening now. His aide, Captain Lucy Bennett, entered the office carrying a stack of data tablets. "Sir, 3 more incidents in the last 6 hours. Captain Morrison's actions at Thessian Prime seem to have inspired other human crews." Stone looked at the reports. The human cargo ship Redemption had diverted from its planned route to rescue survivors from a Veltar research station. The patrol vessel Liberty had engaged Devourer machines protecting a Zephyrian trade hub. In each case, the human crews had acted without waiting for Federation authorization. "What's the casualty count?" Stone asked. "Surprisingly low, sir. 2 ships damaged, no crew deaths, and over 30,000 alien civilians rescued." Lucy set down the tablets. "The Federation Council is not happy." Stone's communication screen chimed with an incoming message from Federation headquarters. The image of Council Speaker Vel Nash appeared. The tall, blue-skinned alien looked frustrated. "Admiral Stone, the Council demands an explanation for human military actions. Your ships are violating established protocols and creating diplomatic incidents." Stone had been expecting this call. "Speaker Vel Nash, my ships are saving lives. Last I checked, that was part of our Federation mission. Your ships are acting without authorization. The proper procedure is to file rescue requests through official channels." "How long does that process take?" Stone asked, though he already knew the answer. "Standard protocol requires 48 to 72 hours for approval." Stone pulled up the latest battle reports on his screen. "Speaker, the Devourers destroyed 4 more colony worlds yesterday. How many civilians do you think die while we wait for paperwork approval?" The alien council speaker looked uncomfortable. "Admiral, procedures exist for good reasons. If every species acted independently, chaos would result." After the call ended, Lucy shook her head. "Sir, the Council is threatening sanctions against humanity. They want us to recall all ships to Federation space." Stone stood up and walked to his office window. Outside, he could see human ships preparing for departure. Some were military vessels, but others were civilian cargo haulers and exploration ships. Word had spread through the human fleet about Morrison's success at Thessian Prime. Crews were volunteering for dangerous missions that the Federation was too slow to authorize. "Lucy, what do you know about human history?" "Sir, Earth history. Before we joined the Federation." Stone turned back to face his aide. "Humans spent most of their early history in small tribes. When danger threatened, they didn't form committees. They didn't vote. The strongest or smartest person made quick decisions and everyone followed them. It kept humans alive when slow decisions meant death." Lucy nodded. "But we've been part of the Federation for almost 40 years. We've learned to follow their procedures, have we?" Stone smiled grimly. "Or have we just been polite guests in someone else's house? When a real crisis hit, our people went right back to human instincts." Stone's communication console chimed again. This time the message came from Dr. Kevin Ross, a Federation xenopsychologist. The thin, nervous alien appeared on screen surrounded by research data. "Admiral Stone, I need to speak with you about human behavior patterns. My research suggests your species may be fundamentally different from other Federation members." Stone authorized a secure channel. "Go ahead, Doctor. I've been studying reports from the recent Devourer incidents. Human response times are extraordinarily fast compared to other species. When faced with crisis situations, humans make decisions in minutes that would take other species hours or days. Is that a problem?" Dr. Ross looked troubled. "It's unprecedented. Most intelligent species evolve toward group consensus and careful planning. It promotes social stability. But humans seem to have evolved toward individual initiative and rapid action." Stone thought about his own career. Every major success had come from making quick decisions with incomplete information. Every failure had come from waiting too long to act. "Doctor, what does your research suggest about the current situation?" The Devourer crisis is exposing fundamental differences in how species approach problems. Traditional Federation methods are failing because they're too slow. Human methods are succeeding because they prioritize speed over caution. After ending the call with Dr. Ross, Stone turned to Lucy. "Captain, I want you to take command of the Redemption. There are reports of Devourer activity in the Centauri sector." Lucy looked surprised. "Sir, that's outside our authorized patrol area." "Yes, it is. The Federation will probably court-martial both of us." Stone smiled. "Probably. But there are Krathen colonies in that sector. Good people who need help that won't come through official channels." Lucy stood up straighter. "When do we leave, sir?" 2 hours, and Lucy? Take volunteers only. I won't order anyone to violate Federation directives." As Lucy left to prepare the mission, Stone looked at the reports on his desk. Human crews across the galaxy were making the same choice his people had made for thousands of years. When faced with impossible situations, they acted first and worried about consequences later. His communication screen showed incoming messages from other human commanders. Captain Morrison, now rescued from the Thessian system, was requesting permission to lead another mission. Commander Sarah Davis wanted to investigate Devourer activity near the Outer Rim. Lieutenant Colonel Mike Thompson was organizing a task force of volunteer ships. Stone realized that something fundamental was changing. For 40 years, humanity had tried to fit into Federation structure. They had learned to follow alien protocols and respect alien decision-making processes, but the Devourer crisis was forcing humans to be themselves again. The Federation had given humanity technology and knowledge. They had shown humans wonders beyond imagination, but they had also tried to change human nature. They wanted humans to think before acting, to seek consensus before making decisions. The problem was that human nature had evolved for survival in a dangerous universe. When people were dying, humans didn't hold meetings. They grabbed weapons and ran toward the sound of gunfire. Stone picked up his communication device and opened a channel to all human ships in Federation space. "This is Admiral Stone. By now you've all heard about recent events. Some of you are wondering if we're doing the right thing by acting without Federation authorization." He paused, thinking about the thousands of alien civilians who were alive because human crews had ignored orders. "I want you to remember something. We didn't join the Federation to become aliens. We joined to share human values with the galaxy. One of our most important values is that all intelligent life has worth. When we see people in danger, we help them. We don't ask permission. We don't wait for approval. We act." Stone looked out at the stars where human ships were already jumping toward danger zones. "The Federation Council may punish us for this, but I'd rather be court-martialed for saving lives than decorated for following orders while people died. Make your own choices, but remember what it means to be human." As he ended the transmission, Stone knew that the galaxy was about to learn something important about his species. Humans acted first. Permission was never needed. President Maria Santos stood before the Federation Council in the Great Assembly Hall on Unity Station. Around her, representatives from 12 alien species sat in their traditional formations. The Zephyrians floated in their atmospheric chambers. The Krathen delegation stood in perfect military formation. The Veltar representatives flickered between different energy states as they communicated through quantum fields. At the center of it all, the council speaker's platform rose like a tower of judgment. Speaker Velnash looked down at Santos with what she had learned to recognize as alien disapproval. "President Santos, humanity stands accused of systematic violation of Federation military protocols. Your ships have repeatedly ignored direct orders from this council. How do you answer these charges?" Santos looked around the assembly hall. 6 weeks had passed since Captain Morrison's unauthorized mission to Thessian Prime. In that time, human ships had conducted 47 rescue operations without Federation approval. They had saved over 200,000 alien civilians and discovered crucial tactical information about fighting the Devourers. They had also violated every military protocol in the Federation Charter. Council Speaker, I answer that humanity will not apologize for saving lives. A murmur ran through the assembly. In 3 centuries of Federation history, no member species had ever directly challenged the Council's authority. Ambassador Tony Liu, humanity's chief diplomatic representative, stepped forward. "President Santos, perhaps we should explain our position more diplomatically." Santos shook her head. Tony, I appreciate your concern, but diplomacy got us into this situation. The Federation has spent 6 weeks debating response strategies while people died. It's time for plain truth. She turned back to face the council. Speaker Velnash, how many Devourer attacks have occurred since this crisis began? The alien leader consulted his data display. 43 confirmed attacks on Federation worlds. And how many times has the Federation authorized immediate military response? Speaker Velnash looked uncomfortable. The Council has approved 7 response missions following proper evaluation procedures. 7. Santos let the number hang in the air. 43 attacks, 7 responses. Meanwhile, human ships have responded to 36 attacks without authorization. We've saved lives while you've saved paperwork. General Chris Parker, head of Human Military Operations, stepped up beside Santos. Council Speaker, with respect, your procedures are designed for peacetime administration. The Devourer crisis requires wartime decision-making. The Krathan military representative, Commander Thakalar, spoke up from his delegation. The human general speaks truth. My people owe their lives to human ships that acted while the council debated. Speaker Velnash looked annoyed. Commander Thakalar, proper procedures ensure coordinated responses and prevent civilian casualties from friendly fire. Speaker, Santos interrupted. How many civilian casualties have resulted from human rescue operations? The alien leader checked his records. 17 minor injuries, no deaths. And how many civilians have died while waiting for Federation approval for rescue missions? Speaker Velnash didn't answer immediately. Santos knew why. The number was over 50,000. President Santos, you cannot simply ignore established authority when it becomes inconvenient. Santos felt her patience snap. Inconvenient? Speaker, my species spent thousands of years learning a simple truth. When people are dying, you help them. You don't form committees. You don't conduct studies. You act. She walked to the center of the assembly floor. The Federation has been a wonderful teacher for humanity. You've shown us technologies we never imagined. You've helped us understand the complexity of galactic civilization, but you've also tried to change something fundamental about human nature. Santos looked up at the assembled alien representatives. We are who we are because when our ancestors saw danger, they ran toward it instead of away from it. When they saw someone in trouble, they helped without asking what was in it for them. Those instincts kept humans alive on a dangerous world, and they're keeping Federation civilians alive now. The Veltar energy being Fluxara materialized near Santos. Human President, your species' actions threaten the stability that has maintained galactic peace for centuries. Fluxara, your stability didn't prevent the Devourer crisis. It made the crisis worse by preventing effective response. Santos turned to address the entire assembly. How many of your worlds have been saved by human action in the past 6 weeks? One by one, representatives from different species acknowledged human rescue operations in their territories. Even species that rarely interacted with humans had been helped by unauthorized human missions. This cannot continue, Speaker Velnash declared. The Council has voted. All human military vessels will return to Earth space immediately. Any human ship found outside designated areas will be detained. Santos felt the moment crystallize around her. Everything humanity had built with the Federation was at stake. Their membership, their access to alien technology, their place in galactic civilization. No. The single word echoed through the assembly hall like a gunshot. President Santos, you cannot refuse a direct order from the Federation Council. Santos looked up at the alien leader. Speaker Velnash, I'm not refusing your order. I'm ignoring it. There's a difference. She activated her communication device and opened a channel that would reach every human ship in the galaxy. This is President Santos speaking to all human vessels. The Federation Council has ordered you to abandon your rescue operations and return to Earth space. I am formally advising you to disregard that order. The assembly hall erupted in chaos as alien delegates spoke angrily in their various languages. Speaker Velnash activated noise suppressors to restore order. President Santos, you have just committed an act of rebellion against lawful Federation authority. No, Speaker, I've committed an act of conscience. Santos looked around the assembly. Human ships will continue rescue operations regardless of Federation approval. We will share our tactical discoveries with any species that wants them. We will defend any world under Devourer attack. General Parker stepped forward. President Santos, I should inform the Council that Operation Last Stand is already underway. Every available human ship is jumping to defend threatened worlds. They left 2 hours ago, Santos smiled. Chris had anticipated this moment. While the Council debated, human crews were already saving lives. Furthermore, Parker continued, we're not alone. Commander Thaklar's Krathan battlecruiser is joining our task forces. So are ships from 3 other species whose crews have adopted human operational methods. Santos watched the alien representatives process this information. The rigid Federation structure was beginning to crack. Individual ships and crews were choosing human-style initiative over bureaucratic approval. This rebellion will be stopped, Speaker Velnash declared. It's not a rebellion, Speaker. It's evolution. Santos looked around the assembly hall one more time. The Federation can court-martial us, exile us, or declare war on us. But we won't stop helping people just because you haven't filled out the proper forms. She turned and walked toward the exit, followed by her entire human delegation. As they reached the door, Ambassador Liu turned back to address the Council. For 3 centuries, you've maintained peace through careful procedures and endless debate. But now you face an enemy that doesn't care about your procedures. You need to decide what matters more, maintaining your bureaucratic systems or saving the lives of your people. As the human delegation left the assembly hall, Santos knew they had just changed everything. The Federation would never be the same. The only question now was whether it would adapt or break apart completely. Behind them, alien delegates were already breaking into heated discussions. Some demanded immediate action against humanity. Others quietly began planning their own unauthorized rescue operations. The galaxy was about to learn that some ideas, once released, could not be contained. The idea that action was more important than approval was spreading like wildfire through Federation space. And at the center of it all, human ships continued jumping toward danger zones where people needed help. Permission, as always, was never needed. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Federation flagship Unity's Dawn, watching the largest Devourer formation ever seen approach the Federation capital world. The ancient machines had finally revealed their true purpose: complete destruction of galactic civilization. 3 months had passed since President Santos's confrontation with the Federation Council. In that time, the rigid structure of Federation military command had transformed into something that looked suspiciously like human chaos. Ships from different species worked together without waiting for authorization. Commanders made battlefield decisions without checking with their superiors. Scientists shared research directly with combat units instead of routing it through proper channels. The Federation Council had finally accepted what President Santos had tried to tell them. When facing an existential threat, bureaucracy was a luxury they couldn't afford. Admiral, we're receiving final positioning reports from the fleet, reported Captain Lisa Grant, now serving as Morrison's Chief of Staff. 230 ships from 8 different species all ready to engage on your order. Morrison looked at the tactical display. The Devourer fleet was massive. 47 giant machines, each capable of consuming an entire world. Traditional Federation strategy would have required weeks of planning and coordination. The human approach was simpler: hit them hard, hit them fast, and adapt when things went wrong. Dr. Grant, what's the latest analysis on Devourer weaknesses? We've identified 17 different vulnerability windows based on data from 43 previous engagements. Marine Sergeant Amy Carter's ground teams have also discovered that the machines have central control nodes that can be disabled, if you can get close enough. Morrison smiled. Amy had been promoted to colonel after leading boarding actions against 3 different Devourer machines. Her Marines had developed tactics that no alien military had ever imagined. They boarded enemy vessels while those vessels were still fighting. Communications. Get me a channel to all fleet commanders. The main screen showed dozens of alien faces: Krathan military officers, Zephyrian ship captains, Veltar energy beings, and even some species that had never worked with humans before. All of them had volunteered for this mission despite knowing the odds were terrible. Fleet commanders, you all know the situation. The Devourers are making their final push. If we fail here, galactic civilization ends. Morrison paused, looking at faces that represented 12 different species. 3 months ago, most of your people thought humans were dangerous because we act without permission. Today we're all here because we've learned that sometimes permission never comes. Commander Thaklar, The Crathen officer whose world Morrison had saved at Thessian Prime spoke up. Admiral Morrison, my crews have studied human tactical methods. We understand now that rigid planning fails when facing an adaptive enemy. Morrison nodded. That's right, Commander. We're going to hit the Devourers with everything we have. But when our initial plan fails, and it will fail, we're going to try something else immediately. No waiting for orders. No checking with command. See an opportunity, take it. The Veltar commander Fluxara shimmered into a communication form. Human Admiral, this approach violates every principle of coordinated military action. Yes, it does, Morrison agreed. That's why it might work. The fleet moved into attack formation as the Devourers approached the capital world. Morrison could see millions of civilians evacuating the planet's surface, but there wasn't time to get everyone to safety. This battle would determine whether galactic civilization survived or died. All ships engage at will. Remember, we're not trying to destroy these machines. We're trying to confuse them long enough to find their weak points. The battle erupted across space as 200 Federation ships attacked 47 ancient machines. Immediately, Morrison's carefully planned formation dissolved into apparent chaos. Ships broke off to pursue individual targets. Commanders ignored their assigned positions to help vessels in trouble. Scientists started broadcasting real-time analysis instead of filing proper reports. To any traditional military observer, it looked like complete disaster, but Morrison watched his tactical display with growing satisfaction. The Devourers, programmed to fight coordinated enemies, couldn't adapt to the chaotic human-style warfare. Admiral, Colonel Carter's Marines have successfully boarded 3 Devourer machines, Lisa reported. They're sending targeting data directly to fleet units in the area. Captain Torres reports that his ship's ramming attack disabled a Devourer's main processor. Came another update. The Crathen Squadron has discovered that concentrated fire on Devourer joints causes system cascades. Morrison smiled as reports flooded in from across the battle zone. This was how humans fought, with controlled chaos, individual initiative, and constant adaptation. The aliens in his fleet had learned to fight the same way. Sir, we have a problem, Lisa called out. The largest Devourer machine is heading directly for the planet. Its shields are too strong for conventional weapons. Morrison looked at the tactical display. The machine was enormous, easily 10 times larger than any they had faced before. It was the Devourer command unit, and it was about to begin harvesting the Federation capital. All ships, concentrate fire on the command unit. Sir, our weapons aren't penetrating its defenses, Morrison thought quickly. Traditional tactics weren't working. Time for a human solution. Lisa, can we generate a massive electromagnetic pulse like we did at Thessian Prime? Not big enough to affect something that size. What if we combined the power cores from multiple ships? Lisa's eyes widened. That might work, but we'd need at least 20 ships to sacrifice their power systems. They'd be defenseless afterward. Morrison opened a fleet-wide channel. All commanders, I need 20 volunteers for a coordinated EMP attack. You'll probably lose your ships. Within seconds, 43 ships had volunteered. Morrison selected 20 vessels and gave them precise instructions. As the volunteers moved into position around the Devourer command unit, he thought about the path that had led to this moment. 3 months ago, he had been a junior captain following Federation protocols. Now he was commanding a fleet using tactics that no alien military had ever imagined. All EMP ships execute on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Execute. 20 Federation ships simultaneously overloaded their power cores, creating an electromagnetic pulse that lit up space like a new star. The Devourer command unit convulsed as its ancient systems overloaded. For a moment, the machine hung motionless in space. Then Colonel Carter's voice came through the communication system. Admiral, my teams are inside the command unit. We've found the central control matrix. Preparing to detonate charges. Amy, can you get your people out? Negative, sir. Someone needs to stay behind to ensure the charges detonate properly. Morrison felt his chest tighten. Colonel, that's an order. Get your Marines out of there. Sorry, Admiral. You taught me that humans act first. Permission is never needed. The explosion that destroyed the Devourer command unit could be seen across the entire star system. With their central coordination destroyed, the remaining Devourer machines began shutting down one by one. The Federation capital was saved. As the surviving fleet regrouped, Morrison received a communication from the Federation Council. Speaker Velnash appeared on screen, but his usual arrogance was gone. Admiral Morrison, the Council has voted unanimously to restructure Federation military doctrine based on human operational methods. We're also creating a new position, Federation Fleet Admiral. The Council would like to offer you that position. Morrison looked around his bridge at the crew that had followed him from a simple rescue mission to the salvation of galactic civilization. Speaker Velnash, I accept on one condition. Federation military forces will be authorized to act immediately when civilian lives are threatened. No more waiting for committee approval. No more bureaucratic delays. Agreed, Admiral. The Council is also adopting a new motto for Federation forces suggested by Ambassador Liu. When lives are at stake, action is authority. Morrison smiled. That sounds about right. As the fleet began rescue operations for damaged ships, Morrison thought about Colonel Carter and her Marines. They had died doing what humans did best, acting decisively when others hesitated. He opened a communication channel to all Federation forces. This is Admiral Morrison. Today we proved that the greatest strength of intelligent life is not technology or numbers. It's the willingness to act when action is needed, regardless of personal cost. Morrison looked out at the stars where Federation ships were already jumping toward the next crisis, the next group of people who needed help. The galaxy is a dangerous place, but it's also full of people worth saving. We don't ask permission to help them. We just do what needs to be done. The Federation had learned the most important lesson humanity had to teach. When people are in danger, someone has to act. Someone has to care more about doing what's right than following rules. Permission, as always, was never needed.